A very good evening on a Monday night. Welcome to the West Ham Voice. Thank you all for joining me on the West Ham Weekly. It's been, the week has started okay, hasn't it? Had I done this show on Friday night after the Ghent game, I think a lot of you would have been sort of ready to slash your wrists and feeling really down. But yet, here we are, Monday night, after the game against Arsenal. Everybody thinking we were going to get absolutely trounced. And we got a spring in our step, haven't we? We got a good feeling about us. The game itself, it was the old West Ham. Everyone was saying it's about time. You know, the sort of old West Ham were back. And I'm glad I'm doing the show tonight rather than doing it on a Friday night. Because had I done it on the Friday, had I been live on Friday, it certainly wouldn't have been the same feeling at all. So welcome to you all. Welcome to the mods. Thank you for doing the moderating for me as usual. What am I going to talk about? Well, I'm going to sort of touch on the game, aren't I? Between Ghent and West Ham, as well as West Ham and Arsenal. And I'm going to give you all the latest updates, West Ham United related. David Moyes, apparently the handshake. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Scamacca, as he played his last game for West Ham United. And of course, there's got to be a tribute to King Arthur. I mean, come on. But let's see who's in the chat before I get into all of that. Good evening to you, Anthony. How are you? West Ham fans saying the players are not playing for Moyes and that Moyes has lost the dressing room. What I saw yesterday was the complete opposite. Stop bitching and get behind the team. Absolutely. I totally agree with you, Anthony. I think it was a great performance. I think you could see the players, even who was it? Paquetá came out and said a few words about the game and about how they took it forward and how they were pleased with the performance and at themselves. So, yeah, I totally agree with you, Anthony. Anthony, again, West Ham not getting relegated. I don't think we will. I think we will just about, we'll get through. We'll be okay. Going to win the Europa Conference? Well, I think we've got a damn good chance. Declan staying? Not so sure. And at least I love this club and don't have negative vibes. Fantastic. What a great start. Good evening, Matt. Even when I all seemed doom and gloom before the World Cup, I knew we would crack and gain points down the line. But yesterday's results gave me much confidence that if we play like that, the Europa Conference League is ours. Totally agree there. If we do play like that, my goodness me, not only mid-table mediocrity in the Premier League, but also Europa Conference League winners. I'll take mediocrity for now rather than going down, of course. Daniela, good evening to you. Well said, Anthony. Yesterday made me happy and everyone going about Arsenal bottled it, but forgetting how we stepped up for a very bad start to end up on top. So let's enjoy. But Arsenal did. We were at them, and I was really, really pleased with the performance and the buzz in the crowd. I tell you what, talking about fans getting behind the team, if we got something to get behind, we certainly do. And boy, oh boy, the atmosphere was great. I usually hate sort of afternoon Sunday games. Sometimes you don't get the atmosphere that you want, but the atmosphere was fantastic. Matt, buzzing for European nights. Hope we can keep it for next season. You know what? 3 seasons in a row in Europe would be absolutely superb. Anthony, congratulations to the under-18s for winning the league, beating Arsenal 2-0. Absolutely going to cover that in a moment. Agree, Anthony. Under-18s, fantastic job. Hopefully break through into the first team. Let's not jump the gun too much. 1 or 2 have got an opportunity. I don't imagine all of them will, but we've got some very good youngsters. If you saw the show I did last week, it didn't go on the Monday night, but I put it on the Tuesday morning. I talked about the under-18s, a number of them that really might well have bright futures. But let's not jump the gun, because everyone was talking about Scholes, Ollie Scholes. And ironically, in the semi-final for the FA Youth Cup and in the under-18s lately, he's not been the top dog. He's played well, but there have been other players there who have done just as well, if not better than Scholes. So let's not put too much pressure on them. Matt, Leeds versus Liverpool is now 4-1, I think, at the moment. Just before I came on, I just checked the score. But my God, Liverpool are a weak team. I do hate that nowadays players play for fouls. It's horrible. They should start booking players for that. I absolutely hate that. And if it includes our players, then so be it. Stuart, good evening to you. Hi, Stella and all. David Moyes, still the right man for the 100%. Yeah, at the moment, he's doing the right things. So it's good. Matt again. Sky Sports News get on my wick. When they talk about VAR, they don't care football is about opinions, but as this is my opinion, they talk dog shit. How can they say Antonio's a handball? It wasn't Antonio they were talking about a handball. It was about Declan leading up to the what game are you talking about? If you're talking about the game against Arsenal, I think it was Declan that apparently handballed it, but Matt, Arsenal fans crying about Rice, never a handball. Yeah, they would have had it and taken it, wouldn't they? Matt, is it just me or will we finish 12th and Southampton, Everton and Leeds go down? Southampton and Everton, quite possibly. Leeds, don't know yet. Leicester, I think it might be Leicester. Good evening to you, Epic. It is just me. I hope you're well, mate. Anthony again. Matt, Southampton, Leicester and Everton for the drop. Imagine Everton going down. That would be unbelievable, wouldn't it? Matt again. Anthony, do you know why I got a cheeky feeling Leicester will have the great... Well, do you... So is Scamacca, Matt asked, out for the season? Going to talk about that in a minute. I'll be honest with you. I don't know. But I'll give you my opinion. And it will be an educated guess. Not that I'm very well educated, but it will be an educated guess. Daniela, yeah, 4-1. I thought I saw that. Matt, Daniela, I like Everton and Southampton to stay up due to our stats and all-time stats. Everton have most losses in the league, and we are second. Is that the only reason why you want them to go down? Anthony, what's this I hear Chelsea coming to London Stadium? Talked about that. I haven't got that in the show, but given that you've asked the question, I'll cover that now. Chelsea are talking about redeveloping Stamford Bridge. Stamford Bridge is falling down as we keep singing. Fill it up with claret and blue. They're going to come over to the stadium full of claret and blue. The irony. No, apparently Stamford Bridge is going to be redeveloped and they're going to look for a new home. They're looking for a new home for anything up to about 4 years. And it's possible that London Stadium could be one of those that they might move to. But it ain't going to happen. I reckon it'll be LLDC want it to happen because they'll get more rent out of them in order to make up for the paltry rent that they get out of us. But that's their problem, not our problem. They agreed the bloody deal. But I think Wembley's on the cards. London Stadium's on the cards. And I think Twickenham Rugby Club, I think, is another one that's on the cards. I don't think they'll want to come over to East London. I think, if anything, they'll probably go to Wembley, just like Spurs did when they were redeveloping their ground, or maybe Twickenham or something like that. But or even maybe a ground share at Fulham, possibly, but it might be too small for them. Mind you, they're not a big club, so maybe it's just enough. I don't know. But yeah, London Stadium was considered as one of them, Anthony, and it seems to me that that's the unlikeliest place that they'll come to. Hope that answered your question. Good evening to you, Buffalo. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Who else have we got? Good evening, Joan. How are you? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Good evening, Mr. Barrett. How are you? Everyone in chat, such a good result yesterday, an absolute vital point. It felt like a win. You know, sometimes you walk away from a game when it's a draw and you feel like, oh, felt like a defeat. Yesterday felt like a win. And I know Arsenal fans are taking the piss out of us, but we've taken the trophy. We've taken the we've taken the league title from them. Fuck them. Who cares? If they're good enough, they'll beat everyone. If they're not, they won't. Mr. Walton, how are you? The players led by Captain Rice have gone rogue and made Moyes a lame duck manager. Long may it continue. I know that theory's out there. I don't know if I buy into that, to be quite honest with you, Richard. You know, because the way Paquetá was talking, he did an interview on Brazilian TV, something like that today, and he was talking about the game and how the players themselves have, you know, sort of been told to put on the pressure, etc. But God knows why they haven't been doing it all season. So I don't know. Is that another conspiracy that we want to believe? Who knows? Good evening to you, Foxes. Not first tonight. I hope you're well, mate. Good evening, Mr. Lindsay. How are you? So happy after the Gooners draw and now Leeds are losing. Happy days. There you go. I said it at the weekend. I don't care what happens with other teams and their results. That's not of our concern. If we're good enough, we'll stay up. We'll win our game. We'll win enough games to stay up. If we're crap enough, unfortunately, no matter what how happens elsewhere, we'll go down. So I think right now we're good enough. Mr. Neil, how are you, sir? 6 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. It gets earlier for you, mate. I hope you're well down there. Matt, Stel, your opinion. Will Europa Conference, new manager and crack on for top 7 again? Do you think that will keep Rice for the 23-24 season or best sell in the summer? It's a good question. I've been asked that before. Okay, here's my view on Declan Rice. There's a chance that Declan Rice might decide to see out his contract. He's got another year. I know he's got options of another year or two on top of that. But I think quite possibly, don't quote me on this. I think quite possibly Declan might turn around and go, I've got one more year, then I can go to wherever I want, demand a signing on fee, ask for whatever contract I want. there's a chance, because with West Ham United at the moment wanted to sell, of course, we'll only sell him to the highest bidder. We've kind of made that pretty clear. Declan may not want to go to the highest bidder. Man City might come. Let's say, for argument's sake, Man City might come in and go, we'll offer you 100 million, and West Ham will go, no, we want 120 mil. Declan might not want to go to Man City. He might want to choose the club he wants to go to. So there's a small chance that he could turn around and say, I'd rather stay another season, and then I can decide my own destiny, my own future. It's a theory. Rhonda and Tony, how are you? I hope you're well. Good of you to join. I hope all is well with you. 5-1, and they are awful, aren't they, Liverpool? Goodness me. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Good evening to you, Bill. How are you? She's much better, thank you. I saw her. It was the Orthodox Easter at the weekend, Greek Easter, etc., etc. So we were down there, had the odd bit, the old bit of lamb and all that sort of stuff. She's fine. She's not as sprightly as she once was, but fingers crossed, and thank you for asking, Bill. Much appreciated. Neil and Tony, Neil from Down Under, all good here. Same over to you there. Oh, see, everyone says hello to each other. I'm late again. I'm not. I wasn't that late, was I? Well, Kalispera to you, Keith. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mates. Good evening, Lord Patrick. How are you? Thank you for doing me in the chat. Thank you for doing me. I didn't do anything to you. I hope you're well, Patrick. Thanks for joining. Good evening to you, Epic. I hope you're well too. Chris, how are you, mate? I hope all is well with you. Who else we've got? Shaky. Good evening to you. Noswaith Dastel. It's Welsh, by the way. Did I pronounce it right? Noswaith or Noswaith? Noswaith. Wiggy's Welsh. The guy that wears all the shit shirts for all the games when we film him, and the sun shines from his shirt. He's Welsh. Doesn't admit it though. He likes sheep, apparently. I don't know what the link is, but there you go. Patrick's asked Blakey a question. How do you say 100 in Welsh? Oh, there's a joke there somewhere. Apache, are we having Masuaku's? Well, I'm going to do a little homage to Arthur, as seen from Stell's spectacles. And it ain't going to be pleasant. John, good evening to you. I hope you're well. What happened on Sunday? That didn't go to plan as we all thought. You have to watch AFL. I'm sure they all went absolutely nuts, didn't they, at the weekend? You know what? Like I said, if you're good enough to win the league, you're good enough to beat everybody. If you're shit enough to not be in the league, etc., we played superbly. And anyone says that it's because they had a bad afternoon, sod that. They were 2-0 up. They were 2-0 up. Rhonda and Tony, my biggest fear was Creswell and Kerr in defence, but they stood tall. Do you know what? When we saw the lineup, it's like Kerr is in and Creswell's kept his place. And then after 10 minutes, when it was 2-0, it was like, oh shit. But anyway, let's move on. Good evening to you, Jonathan. I hope you're well. Right, I'll tell you what, let's start with the first part of the show, and I'll catch up with your other comments in a moment. So let's get into it, shall we? Right. Crystal Palace played West Ham United in the under-21s tonight. And I don't know what to say about this game. West Ham United were 3-1 up. And Crystal Palace also, wrong one. See, there you go. When you rush things, you put on the right. That shouldn't say congratulations to the under-18s. So no slide for that one because I messed up the title. West Ham United played Crystal Palace in the under-21s league this afternoon. We took a 2-1 lead. They went a player down. We had Kamari Swire in the Brazilian defender that we signed in the January, Luzao, grabbing his first goal for West Ham United. Both excellent set pieces. And then what happened? I don't know. We went 3-1 up. It went 3-2, and then the game ended 3-3 with 10 men. Crystal Palace coming back. Look, they're a decent team. Crystal Palace. They're third in the under-21 league. They took it to West Ham, and we missed an opportunity. It hasn't been the greatest of seasons for West Ham's under-21s. But let's be honest, there's been quite a lot of change. They're moving a lot of the under-18s into the under-21s. There's a lot of sort of change of players, etc. We've had players that were out on loan that have come back, like Oko Flex and all that sort of stuff. And it just has been not as great a season. If you remember last season, We were borderline almost winning the Premier League 2, and we just faltered at the end. But we had a great season last season. This season isn't as good. But I think that's because of the transition. We were well ahead in this game. You know, we actually had the better of the game. We were quite dominant. It was a dominant performance, but slipped up. We conceded a penalty, etc., and it ended up 3-3. So the under-21s didn't do so well, which is unfortunate. But you know, we're not going to get relegated. We're sort of there was a big concern that we might get relegated, but we sort of moved up. But there's no way we're going to be anywhere near the top of the league either. But last week for the academy was all about the under-18s, wasn't it? Under-18s Premier League South champions, fully deserved, absolutely superb season under Kevin Keane. They got the title by beating Arsenal. Someone said it in the chat earlier on. They got the title by beating Arsenal 2-0. And is that a precursor to the FA Cup Youth Final? I'm not so sure. But interestingly, there's quite a few players in the under-18s who played who kind of don't normally feature. So I don't want to risk it, but it almost as if we had a part of our B team out there for the under-18s against Arsenal. So it's going to be an interesting final. But look, it was a close-fought contest to beat Arsenal. Goalkeeper Mason Terry was called into action quite a number of times. He pulled off some fantastic saves. We have got some very interesting young keepers in the under-18, in the academy, in the development squad. A couple of keepers out on loan, etc. Nathan Trott and so on. So it's maybe looking a bit rosy for the keepers, fingers crossed. But we did well. Captain Kadua doubled the lead after going up 1-0 up by Divine Mukasa. Another Divine Mukasa came on. He scored a 68-minute goal for the under-18s. And then Gideon Kadua doubled the lead after good interplay with Callum Marshall. Watch out for that name. And Patrick Kelly. And Arsenal side, the under-18s, managed by former Hammer, Jack Wiltshire. So well done. Look, they sit there. They're fantastic, the under-18s. It's been a superb season. They sit 51 points from 20 games with still 2 matches left. They can't be caught. Second place Fulham are 15 points behind with 4 matches remaining, while the third place Crystal Palace have got 3 games left. They can't be caught. It's been a superb season, an incredible campaign. And now, of course, the under-18s, they go into their next phase where now that the league is tied up, of course, we're looking at a double, the FA Youth Cup, which is going to be played on the 25th of April. You can get tickets by going on the West Ham official website to see how you can get them. Only a £5 if you can get tickets. We've got 7,000 tickets for that game, which is fantastic. 7,000 tickets. It's looking like it's going to be a sellout. Well, no, it's going to be about 20,000 fans there in total, but we've got a 7,000 allocation. If you go onto the West Ham website, you'll be able to, fingers crossed, you'll be able to get a ticket for that game. 7,000 allocation means it's going to be quite vociferous. I think it's going to be fantastic. Kevin Keane said, I said to the group afterwards, I'm not particularly an emotional person, but I've worked in football a long time and not won many things, but winning the league and then possibly coming up to winning the FA Youth Cup will be a fantastic achievement. Kevin Keane should absolutely be really proud of the West Ham youth system. They've done well. A chance in the future for Kevin Keane to do something in the senior team. Who knows? Maybe he might be called up. But well done to them. I think it's been absolutely superb. Right, let's go back into the chat. Good evening to you, James. I hope you're well. Good evening, NWO. We always turn up against top 6, just hardly win. Well, you know, if we get results like we did, let's not forget, we've got Man City coming up. We've got Man United coming up. We've got Liverpool coming up. Get a point of each one of those. Might not be a bad season after all. Jonathan, question for you. If we don't go down, win a trophy, Moyes go at the end of the season, good manager comes in again, new invent. Someone asked me that. How 2 of you asked me that? I don't know if you caught the answer, but there's a chance that Declan might stay. If we don't go down, there's a chance Declan, and going back into Europe again, then why not? Why wouldn't Declan want to stay another season? John, bin dippers are doing us a favour. Well, about time they did. Good evening, Adam. How are you? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mates. If Southampton and Everton go down and we do sell Rice and get Lava and Onana, and we'd be strong then with Rice. Look, whatever happens with Declan Rice, if he stays or if he goes, we've got to strengthen in various areas anyway. You know, in a roundabout sort of way, this whole... I think I said it several times. Declan Rice stories go on and on and on and on. They become a distraction, whether it's in transfer window or outside transfer window. All we ever hear day in, day out is when he's going to go to Arsenal and when he's going to go here and when he's going to go there. And it becomes a distraction. In a way, if he goes, farewell, we're going to have to strengthen anyway. If he stays, all fair and well. Matt, he'll probably shut people up. Probably won't actually, because if he stays another season, all they'll talk about is when Declan goes again. Sharky, thank you so much, mate. You didn't have to, but thank you very much. Much appreciated. NWO, no fan of Moyes, but being realistic, who comes at this stage of the season? No one. It's Moyes. There is going to be no change. And actually, that takes me on to what I was going to talk about a little earlier on. And that's the whole issue about the David Moyes handshake that we've kind of heard about. You know, if you read some of the social media stories, you would have heard that apparently David Moyes and David Sullivan have agreed. They've done a handshake on David Moyes leaving at the end of the season. Look, in all honesty, I don't quite really think that that's possible. I'll tell you for why. Look, since our 4-0 defeat, since our 4-0 win over Nottingham Forest at the end of February, we've put in the Europa Conference League results to one side. We've played 6 games. We've won 2, drawn 2 and lost 2. And the only 2, of course, is a 4-0 drubbing against Brighton and the 5-1 home defeat to Newcastle. But otherwise, David Moyes in the last 6 games have picked up 8 points, which is pretty good. And when we faced league leaders, we all said we were going to get trounced. And look at the result that we put in. Many said it was a free hit. I don't believe in free hits, to be honest with you. Whether we play a team at the top of the table or the bottom of the table, we've got to win the game. But this so-called handshake, this is why I don't buy into it. At this stage of the game, after what David Moyes has done in the last 6 games, 8 games left in the league, hopefully another 4, including Thursday's Europa Conference game. So another 4 in Europe and another 8 games in the Premier League. For me, the last thing that would be discussed at this stage of the season is David Moyes leaving at the end of the season. It's highly, highly unlikely that there's going to be that kind of conversation going on at the club. We've often been told that the board always conduct an end of season review at the end of the season. They don't conduct it now. They don't conduct it 2 months ago. If they were going to let David Moyes go, they would have let him go, as many people have said. They would have let him go during the World Cup. They would have let him go in January. They would have let him go when the results were really bad, etc. With 8 games to go now, it's highly, highly unlikely David Sullivan's going to be sitting there going, "Cheers, David. By the way, you won't be here at the end of this season." It doesn't make sense. Where would the motivation be? Where would the incentive be for Moyes to carry on between now and the end of the season? Now, he's a very proud man, and he might take it on the chin and go, "Okay, I'll see it out through the end of the season and go." And it's quite possible. It's quite possible that David Moyes will leave West Ham at the end of the season. But making an agreement now, I'm not so sure if that is true. I think I believe in what we've been told quite a few times. We've been told many a time, the board sit down, they review the season, they talk about, you know, how we've done in the league, how we've done in Europe, how we've done with our transfers, players coming in, players leaving, etc., etc. The last thing I think that they'll be doing at this stage in the season is to discuss David Moyes' future, especially with him. Maybe behind closed doors, they may have had those conversations, but in front of Moyes, I'm not so sure. So I don't think it's been had, to be quite honest with you. I know that there's been rumours that have gone around that there has been an agreement made. I can't see it. I think I just think it will be too disruptive to the manager. You know, he's got a job to do, and maybe, you know, many would say, you know, people are still saying let him go. And I get that. I understand that the season's been poor, but look at the last 6 games: 2 draws, 2 wins. All right, 2 poor defeats, but nonetheless, pulling away from the bottom 3. That's important. We're still in Europe. Okay, we didn't have a good time of it last Thursday, but we didn't lose. I doubt very much they would have had a handshake to say you're on your way at the end of the season. At the end of the season, that may happen, but now I doubt it. So sorry about that. That was a long answer to a very short question. What else we got? Andy, good evening to you. All a good point yesterday, but we need to back it up with a good display and points against Bournemouth, otherwise wasted. Totally agree. Bournemouth are on a great run. 4 wins out of the last 6 games. They've done fantastically well. So that ain't going to be an easy game. They're going to feel a bit more at ease now. They're going to start playing their game a little bit more with ease, etc. But they've been playing fantastic. Adam, that's the best I've felt all season. That's how we should have been playing all season. Going for teams, not sitting back. That's why we've lost so many games. Absolutely agreed. Richard, Mr. Cox, how are you? I hope you're well. Great to catch up with you as well. I hope you and Jake are well. I hope you got home safely. Good evening to you, Darren. How are you? Surely King Arthur won't leave us still. Surely King Arthur has already left the building, mate. I'm afraid. I hope you're well, Darren. Hope you got back home from Ghent well. Good evening to you, Clive. How are you? I hope you're well, mate. Daniela. The Met Police won't sanction Chelsea at London Stadium due to possible fan trouble at home games. I totally agree. I don't think it will happen, to be quite honest with you. Stuart, I think 36 points will be enough. Still 1 win, 2 draws. I want a few more than that, just to be sure. I said quite some time ago, 5 wins and we're fine. We've now got 2 wins and a draw and a couple of draws. I still want another 2 wins will do me, and then I feel a little bit more comfortable. Pash, good evening to you. I hope you're well. I hear Arthur's gone. He has. Who are we getting in from the millions we've sold for him? Well, look, he was in the last year of his contract. I think he's probably gone for next to nothing, because he would have gone anyway at the end of the season. Now, I know he had a clause in his contract for the club to extend it for another year or 2, but obviously we haven't taken that offer up. So don't expect us to have earned millions out of him. I think it's a couple of mil, 3 at the most that he's gone, even if that. NWO, sell Rice 100 mil. Yeah, I agree. I'm not saying that we shouldn't sell Declan Rice. What I'm saying is it's quite possible Declan Rice may not want to go to a club that we want to sell him to. That's all. He may turn around and say, I'd rather stick it out. And you know what? It wouldn't surprise me if he did. The only thing, as I said, is the transfer merry-go-round that goes on around him. It's such a bore. It really is. Foxes, we can still finish above Chelsea. Wouldn't that be funny? Wouldn't that be funny? Finishing we're only, 7 points behind them now. That would be absolutely hilarious. Epic. Sell Rice to a Chinese club. Good evening, Pete. I hope you're well. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated. Matt, I'm off still. I'm a respect fella. I'm off to work. Mate, enjoy. Enjoy work. What am I saying? Thank you for joining. Much appreciated. Enjoy work. Who enjoys work? I better not say that in case someone at work's listening. Julie, how are you? Good evening. What a match that was yesterday. I've caught you on camera. You better have a look at one of my videos, because when you were screaming and shouting behind me when we scored that second goal, I had to zoom in on you. Sorry about that. I should have told you beforehand. Don't switch off, Julie. Good evening, Shaky. Perfectly proud. Oh, well, wow. There you go. It's hanging around Wiggy too much for that. I perfectly pronounced Welsh. Cockney Buccaneer. Arsenal went a bit. Spurs. Fucking pile of shit they are, right? Imagine them lose. I mean, 3-2 to. I hope they fall out of the bloody fall out of European qualification places and we get back into Europe through the Europa Conference. Wouldn't that be hilarious? We finish well below Spurs in the league, and then we get into Europe and they fall out of it. That would be icing on the cake. Neil, I'm in a good mood. Neil, perhaps Moyes started to get involved in the under 20. Adam, if you watch the replays, Benny went to sleep he did, unfortunately. You are correct. He did. He stopped. He didn't follow his player. And sometimes when Moyes gets upset with him, maybe sometimes those are the things that he might be thinking of as well. But you know what? I think Benny, going forward, I think Benny was superb. Well taken penalty. I said it in my very brief review of the game. If Benny was taking penalties when we played Nottingham Forest early season and Liverpool, maybe we might have had another 2 points on the board now. But there you go. Chris, just seen a picture on a West Ham page of the league table 2021. Leicester third, West Ham fourth. Look at us now. You know, that's football, isn't it? You never know. The beauty of football is you don't know how it unfolds. Unless, of course, you've got billions and you know you're always going to be on the top. Good evening to you, West Ham faithful. Moyes and all of his coaching staff were at the semi-final. They were indeed. I was there as well. That was a good night, to be quite honest with you. I was really impressed with the under-18s, the way I mean, Southampton, Kevin Keane said they're a good team, but we absolutely ripped them apart. Epic. Divine Mikasa, 15. Do you see what I mean? When people talk about that, that there's no point in having the academy, it's wasted and David Moyes ain't going to use the players and all that sort of stuff. And look at what's happening. They're coming through. 15 years of age. Divine Mbama was also 15 when he first played for the under-18s. There's some good talent coming through. Have faith. Because, it's not just West Ham United that doesn't always use every single one of their youngsters. It's a lot of clubs that do it, and they will bring through the cream of the top. Look, Ben Johnson, all right, he's fallen away lately, but Ben Johnson and Declan Rice over the last few years have come through. So why not? Don't expect 4, 5, or 6 players to come through the academy to play for the senior team. If we get another 1 or 2 over the next couple of years, that ain't actually that bad. So fantastic for Divine Mikasa. Superb. Sharky. Great season. Well done to Kevin Keane and the under-18s team. West Ham faithful. It's a treble for the under-18s. They play the winner. That's correct. They do. You're absolutely right. And I checked that just before I went on. And it's Manchester City are currently top, but Sunderland are just below them by a couple of points. So it could be either Man City or it could be Sunderland for the playoffs to become overall winners. You're absolutely right. We'll do it. We're a great team. We are superb. Jason Mendelli, good evening to you, mate. Anyone know the last time we won the under-18s league? I don't know when we won the under-18s league, but I can tell you last time we won the FA Youth Cup, which was back in 1999, Joe Cole and all that. But that's a good question. I don't know. Shaky, fancy a bit? I always rum, as Pete would know. Spiced rum, but I'll have a drink with you. Why not, mate? If people keep saying, "Oh, I saw you at a game," etc., come and say hello. Kenneth, good evening to you. Rodgers or Potter? Would you? I'm going to upset you now because I know a lot of you want. There you go, West Ham faithful. I think it was 99 when we won the cup in 99, but I don't know about the league. Rodgers or Potter? Let me explain my answer. Rodgers. Why? Potter, I think. Could flatter to deceive. And I think that's what he's done at Chelsea. He's done what Moyes did when Moyes went from Everton to Man United. It was too much for him to handle. He went on to Chelsea, couldn't handle it. But also, he worked in a system under Brighton, the transfer system, which, the current manager is actually improved on. They got a whole system in place where the manager, whatever manager comes in, he just ticks that system over. I don't know if Potter outside of that system has proved that he's a good manager. I could be wrong. But I think Rodgers is a bit more tried and tested, shall we say. And I think Rodgers is the sort of manager that could possibly get a good tune out of some of the players that we've got. He's been talked about, Rodgers, as a good man manager. Someone that will put his arm around some of the players like Ben Rama, possibly Scamacca, etc., and possibly get the best out of them. So for me, possibly Rodgers. I know you're going to disagree with me. Pete Gads, I wonder if Declan would stay if West Ham got his buddy Mason, and why not? But they're going to want to ask for an awful lot of money, but why not? How about Paquetá, Mason Mount, and Declan Rice in the centre of midfield? Good evening to you, Razor. How are you? Benny is an attacker, not a left-back, who's supposed to help the liability. Creswell has been for 2 seasons now. Creswell was once again the worst left-back. Both goals his fault. I think they were, to be honest, I think Benny's Adam is right. I think you could see Ben Rama. He kind of stopped. He wasn't looking. He was ball watching rather than looking at the player. So to be honest, I think in this case he was certainly at fault for one of them. 6-1. Poor old Leeds. Their goal difference is knocked out of the park. Foxes, if we win the next 4 games, does Moyes stay? Well, this is the question I was asked earlier about Moyes, etc. I really don't know what will happen at the end of the season. Look, let's put it this way. If David Moyes keeps us safe, and if David Moyes wins the Europa Conference League, how many of you would argue that he should go? Now, I get it. It's been a turgid season. But let's also not forget the 2 seasons before weren't bad under David Moyes. And this season has been dreadful. There's been a massive transition, etc. Don't get me wrong with the Moyes out brigade out there. I know you don't want him to stay, etc. And I'm not advocating it because I think I said myself, some of the football that we played this season kind of makes me think it's time for him to go. But to be quite honest with you, it would be quite difficult if Moyes keeps us up. Not if, when we stay up And if we win the Europa Conference, it's a bigger if on winning the Europa Conference than it is staying up at the moment. And if he does both, I mean, I think a lot of perceptions on David Moyes might change. And you might turn around and go, do you know what? It might be worth seeing what he does now that he's had this squad for one season, and he'll probably need to add to it as well. It might be interesting to see what he does by giving him the beginning of next season. If the beginning of next season, we start playing in the same way as we have been this season, you'll turn around almost immediately and go, right, no, absolutely not. But it's going to be difficult, isn't it, for the board? The board will be looking at it and go, kept us in the Premier League. He's actually won a trophy. What do we do now? It's a tough question to answer. NWO, keep us up and win the Euros and keep Moyes. Razor, Kenneth Rogers, as he's already a better CV, pot or two laid back. I agree with you there, Razor. I think Rogers would be a better keeper, a better manager. Clive, I wouldn't take either. I'd rather Company, forget that. Or out of Irving, that won't happen either. Company, there's absolutely no way on earth Company's coming to West Ham United or any other club for that matter. He will want to see what he can do with Burnley, and he will want to give it a damn good try in the Premier League with that club. And I bet you he'll do bloody well as well. And there's no reason for him to leave. He'll cut his teeth with Burnley in the Premier League, and at some point, quite possibly, when a big club comes up, you might see Company going there. Not that we're not big, but you know what I mean. If a Man City that's got shitloads of money, or or a Chelsea even, or something like that, they're going to go to him. Vincent, what do you think? Alan Irvine, look. I did a thing about Irvine a couple of weeks ago. Go back and watch it in the back catalogue of my videos. I think Irvine, I don't think, ironically, the actual results with Irvine being there and having left West Ham are not that much different. You know, there hasn't been a great change in overall in the results, but maybe with Irvine, I suggested that Moyes, Irvine was probably the man that he really trusted when it comes to hearing all this gossip, all these rumors about falling out with the players, falling out with the backroom staff, etc. I think Irvine kept Moyes on an even keel, and I think without him, he's changed. Moyes has changed in that respect. But to come back and be manager, I don't think so. What about the Celtic manager, Sharky? Postecoglou or whatever his name is. No, do you know what? The Celtic job is the biggest job he's had in his career. Everything else has been in Australia, and I think in Europe somewhere, one of the lower leagues in Europe. I'm not so sure. Arnie from Feyenoord. I don't know much about Arnie from Feyenoord, so I'm gonna have to look that up. Is he good? E. Davis, please God, let Moyes leave this summer. See, people will still want him to go, even if he wins the Europa Conference and get us back into Europe for the third season in a row. And if he keeps us up, some people will want to see him go. And I get that, to be quite honest with you. I totally understand it, because the football has been awful, absolutely awful. But yeah, on Sunday, look at the way we played. Clive, yeah, but my preference is Sharky, and I'm old and stubborn. We're all old and stubborn. Adam, so as an attacker, you can't defend you're being lazy just like that. Look, I think Benny was at fault. I think Creswell, actually, after the first 10 minutes, not just Creswell, but the whole team got themselves together. And I think they had a great game after that. Just the first 10, 20 minutes was like, oh God, what's going to happen now? But then we got ourselves together, and we defended as a unit. I think Kehrer was superb in the on the left side of centre back. You know, I mean, he can't play football on his right foot on the right side, and yet he had a great game on the left side next to Zuma. He was superb. But everyone got their shit together, and it was a great game. Anthony, Handshake Sullivan telling Moyes you're our manager next season. You never know. I don't know. Razor, good show, Steln. Was hoping Moyes sacked and Slav come until the end of the season. Big boost that. Dreadful Fulham 1 point. Good Arsenal result, and players seem lifted after ignoring Moyes. Stel, he won. I don't think anyone's winning at the moment until we know that we're 100% safe. And once we know that, then we can have the big debate about should Moyes stay or should Moyes go. You know, but it certainly ain't. It's certain that he's not going now. Not even with Bilic being available, maybe till the end of the season. It doesn't look like it. It's highly unlikely. Jonathan, if what you say is true about the handshake, does that mean he is here till the end of the contract? Well, he's got one more year after this after this season. His contract ends in 20. What are we? 23. It'll be 23, 24. His contract will end in 24. I don't know. Certainly here till the end of this season, without a doubt. What happens thereafter, I think it is a lot to do with how the rest of this the league season pans out, what happens in Europe, etc. Let's put it this way: if after what happened after the weekend, if we start to struggle again and only just avoid relegation and then get knocked out of the Europa Conference or don't win it, then I think it's more likely Moyes will go. But if we continue with the form that we had against Arsenal, get comfortable, win the Europa Conference, and then, as I said, it might be a bit more tricky to let him go. Perhaps it's Moyes' decision to go. That's a good point, Graham. I didn't think of that. It may be David Moyes has turned around and said, I'll see the season out and then I'm off. That is very, very possible. Yeah, didn't think of that. E. Davis, give him some millions for winning his trophy and move on. He may want that as well. He may want to walk away with a trophy on his CV. And, everyone said he hasn't won anything. That'll hurt him. That will, as a manager for so many years who's not won anything, that will really hurt him. And it's quite possible he'll want to walk away saying, I'm a winner. West Ham faithful. Decisions need to be made immediately at the end of the season either way. Massive rebuild job in the summer. That I 100% agree with. It is a big, and yet again, another massive rebuild, because it's not just about the players that are going to be out of contract. We've got a number of players that, are well into their 30s as well. And then, of course, we've got players that could be unhappy, like Scamacca and Declan's, not that Declan's unhappy, but, all the rumor about him going as well. So you're absolutely right. There is it's a second rebuild job in the summer again, following the one from last season. NWO, players have taken time to settle. Beanie, Packman, Kera, Emerson, all playing better. Kera, I think, did well. I think Emerson has been superb. It's a surprise to me that Emerson got dropped at the weekend, to be quite honest with you. Right, let's get into the next part of the show, and I'll come back to your comments in a moment. Right, the games. Well, let's start with the Ghent game, because let's be really honest with you. It was an awful performance. It was really, really poor. We were out there in Ghent. Me and a few friends were out there at the game, etc. And lovely stadium, by the way. Small capacity, but very, very nice stadium. And guess what? They use the stadium in a very interesting way. They make a business out of it. How? Because the ground all around has got shops inside. You've got shops, and you've got, various gymnasiums and a supermarket and all that. So when there's no game there, people have to go there if they want to do their shopping or they want to go to a gym. Imagine using a stadium as a business. Well, there you go. I mean, what a silly thing that to do. But seriously, great stadium. Lovely, lovely stadium. Great atmosphere as well. Only 1,000 West Ham fans there. But boy, oh boy, we sang and we were really sort of up for it. But unfortunately, the players on the pitch didn't seem to be. It was a lackluster game, shall we say. Why Moyes decided to put 5 at the back against Ghent, giving them too much respect, I really don't know. But the officials also didn't help. My goodness me. The ref seemed totally out of his depth. Didn't know what was going on at any moment in time. Don't know why the Agurd. I know it hit Agurd's arm as it went in, but it's not as if he deliberately did it. It came off the goalie, hit Agurd and went in. I think that should have stood, to be honest with you. And then when we did go a goal up, the stadium scoreboard took ages to go from 0-0 to 0-1. And we were beginning to sing at the scoreboard. And then it went from 0-0 to 2-0 to Ghent. And we all started cheering that. And then finally it went to 1-0. So the scoreboard had a few issues. And then, of course, the odd decision that was made at the end of the game, where Paquetá, now I know that it wasn't a foul. I get that, because looking at the replays, he didn't touch Paquetá. But so he red carded the player thinking it was a foul. And then he went over to VAR to check. And yes, he admitted he made a mistake. So he rescinded the red card, but then he showed a yellow card. And we went, okay, he's getting a yellow card. It's not a red card decision. It's a yellow card. So we're waiting for the free kick to be taken. And then he gave the ball to the keeper. Now, he didn't book Paquetá for diving. So I don't know who the yellow card to this day, who the yellow card was for. And it all was a bit confusing. It was all a little bit odd. And interestingly, in the hotel, we were staying in the hotel near the stadium, and in the hotel afterwards, after the game, we were all having a few drinks in the bar, etc. And we saw these fellas walk in with UEFA hoodies on and all that sort of stuff. They walked in. They sat in another part of the like a restaurant bar area, which was sort of like curtained off. And we realised it was the officials. It was the match officials. And Cy Spanner came up to me and went, "You should go and interview them." And I'm like, "Well, yeah." I was pissed, so I went up and said, "Can we interview you?" And they pulled the curtain shut, and that was that. But they were awful. The officials were awful. The players on the pitch were pretty poor. If Ghent were any better at finishing off their chances, they would have won that game pretty easily. And we kind of were lucky in a way to walk away from that game 1-1. Look, I said I did a preview about Ghent before the game a few days before. And I talked about Kuipers, who scored their goal for them. I said, you keep the ball away from him and they'll have no threat. And what did we do? We allowed him to have the ball and he scored. Very good goal as well. And then there was their new signing, Gift Orban, who they signed in January, who's already scored 14 goals for them since January. And I think 5 of those has been in the Europa Conference League and 9 in the league, something like that. And he's very good. And he's going to have all eyes on him. He's only been with Ghent for a few months, but no doubt there are going to be a number of scouts looking at him. It was a poor performance. Of course, we go into the weekend thinking, well, up comes Arsenal next and we're going to get absolutely trounced. And yet, what a performance we put in. Imagine the performance, I don't think anyone could really believe, after going 2 goals down as well, very early in the game, we thought it was going to be an absolute nightmare. As we know, a couple of surprises. I said earlier on, Bonner and Agurd were injured, and so Kehrer started alongside Creswell. Vladimir Soufal as well made his 100th appearance for West Ham United. Fantastic achievement for him as well. And we thought we were going to get a spanking. And after 2-0, we were lucky not to have done. And we got back into it. And then this came up. It was a definite handball from Antonio. Sorry, now I remember what you were talking about, handball for Antonio. It was a definite handball from Antonio. And then Bukayo Saka missed it. And that gave us the lift we needed. I think we played superbly from the last 15 minutes of the first half all the way through to the second half, etc. I think we played superbly. And David Moyes has talked about the crowd, being the 12th man, etc. We needed so far this season. We haven't had much to sing about, much to shout about, much to chant about. But yet, when West Ham showed the effort that they did in that game, we were right behind them 100%. And the atmosphere in the stadium was superb as well. For the first time in a while, there was a togetherness. There seemed to be a togetherness with the fans. There seemed to be a togetherness on the pitch, etc. And it was a superb comeback. And I hope, we talked about some of the games in the past where, the 4-0 win over Nottingham Forest, and we said, oh, that'll be the spur to move us on, etc. And that didn't happen. And I'm hoping with the kind of performance that we put in, because it was by far the best performance that we put in this season against Arsenal. I think with that performance that we put in, I think that will get us going now. It will get us back up to, a few more wins, not to be afraid of these so-called big teams. If we go at them, if we have a go at them, then we can get something out of it. And I think that's we proved that at the weekend. And I think it's given the players some confidence as well. And I hope that carries on, because that will be fantastic. Razor, 100% he will go at the end of the season still. Otherwise, you'll get an almighty protest. Nick and at Claret and Blue says otherwise. We won't win a thing, including Losers Cup with Moyes. I don't call it a loser's cup. A cup is a cup. I know it's the third level cup in Europe, but for me, a cup will still be a cup. Look, I don't know. To be honest with you, we as fans do not have a say in what happens with the manager. We don't. We like to think we do, but we don't. And I know people have their opinions and very strong opinions about Moyes, etc. And I've gone to the dark side. I actually said I do think he should go. But the result, the sort of performance that we put in against Arsenal makes me think if he can carry on doing that, then maybe, just maybe, the board might turn around and go, well, let's see how it goes next season. But if we revert back to what we did most of this season and we start playing the sort of putting in the performances that we were putting in early season or throughout most of the season, then yes, absolutely. Let's see where we go from here. I'm not advocating that he should stay, but at the same time, I don't know. It will really does depend on staying up and winning the Europa Conference. Almost nothing less will do, in a way. Clive, new lyrics factory. We've got Super David Moyes. You can have him at a steal. He's getting on our tits. He often gives us the shits. He's on yours for 20 quid. NWO, King Arthur deserves a statue for his Chelsea goal. So why don't we get into that straight away and talk about player So let's start with Arthur, shall we? I mean, come on. I mean, who was upset when you heard that King Arthur had become a permanent Besiktas player? My all-time favourite player, Arthur Masuaku. Look, I've got an affection for Arthur, but a good player he never was a Premier League player. It's with deep regret that we break the news that Arthur has left West Ham. No more King Arthur of West Ham. The rumours were confirmed. It looks like I talked a couple of weeks back, I think 3 or 4 weeks ago. I talked about Arthur Masuaku having a clause in his loan deal that if he'd made 25 appearances or more, or if he reached 25 appearances for the Turkish club, he would become a permanent signing for them. And that didn't happen. He went one or two games over that. But it looks like they've now reached the agreement and he's become a permanent Besiktas player. The memories. Who could forget the 27th of January 2018 when Arthur decided to spit at a fellow professional in the FA Cup against Wigan, where we lost 2-0 and he got a 6-match ban? Or who could forget February the 1st, 2020, when we were cruising 3-1 to beat Brighton for the first time in God knows how long in the Premier League? Arthur was brought on the 74th minute to add some solidity to our defence, only to be involved in Brighton's comeback, which finished 3-3. The memories will linger on forever. But in all seriousness, the memory that actually will live on for me was on the 4th of December, 2021, the home game against Chelsea, when he helped to achieve a remarkable comeback against them, hitting that sweet 100% on purpose shot to beat Mendy, to beat them 3-2. In fact, I was so shocked that day, I ran the length of the Bobby Moore lower a couple of times. Look, he sent a nice message on Twitter, I think it was, saying, thanks for all the messages I get from the West Ham community. Always felt love with you there. I wish you guys the very best for the future. I wish Arthur Masuaku the best for the future as well. He's been a guilty pleasure. Who am I going to now pick on now that he's gone? Maybe Kera. Who knows? It's entirely possible he'll have the last laugh on us, to be honest with you, because he could be playing Champions League football next season, or at worst, Europa League football. And whereas we might still be sort of languishing, knocked out of the European football for next season, etc. So he might have the last laugh. So good luck to him. I do wish him well. I seriously do. I think he's found his home in Turkey, and I hope it continues to go well for him. Now, another player, as reported now for the last few weeks, there's a bit of confusion about whether Nikola Vlasic will become a permanent Torino player or not, or whether he will return back to West Ham United. I've been talking about this for a couple of weeks, and the stories come out again today. It's conflicting stories over the Croatian's future. Earlier this season, it was suggested that he was going to become a permanent Torino player in the January transfer window. I said that wasn't going to happen. The window came and went, and it didn't happen. And then And now it looks like Torino are languishing. They drew 1-1 at home to Salernitana at the weekend, where they're now something like about 9 points off European places. And if they don't get into Europe, they might not be able to afford to buy him. And it's only for 13 million, but Italian teams don't have an awful lot of money. So it's quite possible that he may not become a Torino player. He may actually come back to West Ham United at the end of the season. So watch this space. Other players that have been in action, Kinnear. Brian Kinnear played for Falkirk, the side in second in the league, played third in the league, Adronians, where they drew 2-2. Kinnear gave away a penalty, but couldn't save it. Who else has been in action? Nathan Trott has been in action again for his on-loan club, Vegel, where he pulled off a number of fine saves for the top of the table clash against Vidorov, I can't pronounce it, a 0-0 clash. Connor Coventry was played in the Rotherham team, who lost to Luton at the weekend 2-0. It ended their 3-match unbeaten run, but they're kind of back in the mix a little bit. Only 3 points off the relegation zone. And Thierry Nevers, one of our young players that's been sent out on loan, hasn't played for Bradford City for quite a number of months, was a substitute for their Bradford City's 3-0 away win to Rochdale at the weekend. So I'm glad he got a bit of game time as well. Injuries, as we know, Naifa Gerd and Ogbonna both missed the game against Arsenal at the weekend, both picking up knocks. Gerd got someone shinned him, someone ran his boots down the back of his ankle, and he missed the game. He had a bit of a sore ankle at the weekend. And Ogbonna, after a fall from going up for a header, he had a sore back. But I've been told that both of those players will be available for the game against Ghent coming up this Thursday. Do they get their places back, I hear you ask? Right, what about a new deal for Fabianski? Now, Lucas Fabianski, he extended his deal last year, where he had a 1-year contract with another year with a year add-on. And it looks like, from the stories that are coming out today, that it's quite possible that West Ham United might trigger the 1-year add-on. So he may be our keeper for another season. It's going to be Fabianski's birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday to you, Lucas. 38 years of age tomorrow, and on the 18th of April. By the time, if he does get another year, he'll be 39 when he finishes the next season's campaign. I don't know. But what that kind of asks the big question of, what about Areola? What does that say for Areola? Areola was, as you all know, signed for the first season on loan. He was encouraged to sign for West Ham United on a permanent deal. And from what we understand, he was promised that he'd be number one this season. That hasn't materialized. Look, Fabianski's been all right. Fabianski's done relatively well this season. He's proved me wrong. He's proved a lot of people wrong. But nonetheless, what does it say about Areola? Is Areola going to be content with sitting on the bench for yet the third season in a row? I don't think he will. And it kind of asks the question, it begs the question, what does Moyes think of Areola? Does he trust him enough? Look, the minute he had the opportunity to bring out Fabianski back in goal this season after his facial injury, he did it. And I knew he would. Now, Areola hasn't had the opportunity to settle behind a settled defence to see how he really fares. We saw what he was like with other teams, both abroad. He's played for Real Madrid. He's played for PSG. He's played for a number of teams, big teams around the world, or around Europe, sorry. He won't stay another season if he's going to be on the bench. Other player news. Declan Rice. I'm sure you've all seen it by now, where he was filmed getting Martin Odegaard to sign an Arsenal shirt for him. And of course, the rumour mill has gone ballistic yet again, and someone said, well, why doesn't he wait until he plays with him so he can have his shirt next season rather than now, and all that sort of stuff. Look, I dare say Declan Rice, like most players, collect shirts. And why not get them signed as well? Do I see much into this? Not really, to be quite honest with you. I don't think there's a lot to be said about it. We know all the rumours about Declan Rice, going to Arsenal, and next week it'll be Man City, and the week after next it'll be back to Chelsea, etc., etc. So, does it matter if he got a shirt signed? Maybe he shouldn't have done it getting filmed. I think that was rather insensitive, but otherwise I don't see much more into it than that. And finally, Gianluca Scamacca. No, he hasn't had the best of seasons, as you can see there. He had an operation on his knee. David Moyes suggested that he was going to be back after 2 weeks. Well, not so. That was 2 weeks ago. And then when the 2 weeks ended, he had an operation. Now, for David Moyes to say that he doesn't know what the operation was about was a really, really bit odd, to be quite honest with you. He said, oh, he might be having it washed out, or there might be a bit of a knee bone or something that's been, well, that's the same as flushing it out, cleaning out anything that's moving in there. I don't know what to say about Scamacca, because it seems to me there's a suggestion. Well, first of all, if he's had his knee flushed out, it will take him probably as long to recover as it did Kurt Zouma earlier in the season, where Zouma missed about 3 games. He was on the bench for the 4th. He basically didn't play for 4 games. So he was out for about 4 or 5 weeks, give or take. And if that's the case with Scamacca, then he'll be back at the tail end of the season, probably in the game against Brentford or the last 2 games against Leeds and Leicester. So it's quite possible, dependent on what operation he's had. If he's had it flushed out, it's quite possible he could be back before the season ends. If it's anything more serious, then it's quite possible we won't see him again at the end before the end of the season. And many people are now suggesting, could it be that this is the last we've seen of Gianluca Scamacca in a West Ham shirt at all? It's interesting. We know his season's not been great. He doesn't look happy. He's not playing with a smile on his face. Bit the same as Anderson. Do you remember Anderson when he was shipped, just before he was shipped out? He didn't seem like he was very happy, and it looks like Scamacca's probably the same. His season has been hampered by illness and injuries. David Moyes has criticised about his lack of form, and that was backed up by Italian legend Christian Vieri, where he said he was further behind in the English game than he thought. And I don't know what to make of this, to be quite honest with you. I think with the new, he's got new agents in CAA Stella who managed quite a number of big names. He managed Jack Grealish, Eduardo Camavinga of Real Madrid, James Ward-Prowse, Calvin Phillips, also managed the now retired Gareth Bale. In fact, they were the ones that arranged the transfer of Bale from Spurs to Real Madrid, etc. I think all eyes might seem to suggest, not that I'm saying for definite, might seem to suggest that we may have seen the last of Gianluca Scamacca at West Ham United. Jonathan Barnett and David Manasseh run the agency. Barnett is considered to be quite ruthless in masterminding big money deals. Like I said, he was behind the Bale deal to Real Madrid. But also, he doesn't come away with, he comes with a bit of baggage as well. There's controversy linked to him way back in 2006, where he was fined 100 grand and also banned for 12 months by the FA for arranging secret meetings between Ashley Cole and Chelsea. So with Scamacca going to that agency, a ruthless agent, you know, the only way they make their money is when they sell a player. So I'm just wondering, to be quite honest with you, whether we have seen the last of Scamacca. Sassuolo president Giovanni Carnevali added fuel to the fire today by suggesting he would not be surprised one bit if Scamacca winged his way back to Italy. He suggested that there aren't that many number 9s with Scamacca's characteristics, and especially in Italian football, and he suggested that he'd be a great fit for Juventus. It's not the first time he's said this. Why would you want a rival to buy one of your ex-players? I don't know. Now, as I said, agents talk and they only make money when they sell a player. So let's get it all into perspective. Scamacca's had a knee surgery. We don't know to what severity. If it's just a washout of the knee, he could be back in about a month's time. 3, 4, 5 weeks' time, give or take. Possibly for the tail end of the season. If it's anything more serious, it's unlikely he'll play football again for West Ham this season. Having said that, if all the rumours are true about possibly Scamacca going back to Italy with Carnevali sort of putting his oar in, and also his agent CAA Stella, if they want to make money out of him quick, they're going to start getting in his ear, and they're probably already sounding out clubs, possibly back in Italy, to buy him. Now, the only thing is, what's he worth? Now, we were told he was bought for £36 million, but that was including add-ons. So, you know, if we got back into Europe, or if we do this, or if we do that, etc., etc. So possibly without all those add-ons, you might be looking at maybe a fee a bit closer to, say, £30 million, give or take. Will we get £30 million for Scamacca? No, especially not back in the Italian league. There aren't that many teams. I just mentioned about Torino possibly not being able to afford Vlasic for around about 13 million. There aren't that many teams willing or able to pay £30 million for a player. And possibly there's talk he might go out on loan at the beginning of next season with an option to buy, etc. But look at those. Always with an option to buy ends up meaning that we're going to get nowhere near the money that we bought him for. Another failure. We've had the whole thing with Hilaire. We've had the whole thing with Anderson. We've had a number of players, good players, that have come and gone under David Moyes. Is Scamacca going to be the next one? I kind of hope not, to be quite honest with you. I kind of hope he gets, pulls himself through, get himself together, because I think played in the right way, I think we can get a tune out of him. Also, perhaps, we were talking earlier, maybe with a different manager at the helm, played in the right way, with a different manager at the helm. Again, it looks as if we could get something out of him. Will he want to stay? I don't know. I really don't. But I think we're going to know over the next few weeks how Scamacca is faring up. If it looks like he's back in training, but like I said, a bit like Zuma, when he had his knee flushed out, he was back pretty quickly. He was, as soon as he came back, he had his bloody groin injury. Oh, hamstring, sorry, not groin. So unfortunately, we didn't see much of him after the knee surgery. But if it is just a minor knee surgery, the flushing out of the knee, he could be back in 3, 4, maximum 5 weeks. If he's back in about 5 weeks, you'll see the tail end of him. But if he's not, and with the agency that he's got, it's quite possible that we might see yet another young. I mean, look how we were looking forward to it. It took us 2 years to get a striker, and we might be letting him go sooner rather than later. I hope not, because I think Scamacca is another player that could come good. But unfortunately, we're not going to know anytime soon. The end of the season is going to be more telling. If he comes back before the end of the season and he gets a few games, scores the winning goal in the Europa Conference League, that sort of thing, all good. But if not, it's quite possible he may be gone. Right, that's the end of my script. So let's get back into the chat. Sharky, thanks, King Arthur. Thanks for the memory. Which memory was your? Well, tell me your best memory of King Arthur. Good evening, Rupert. How are you? In Moyes we trust. Thanks for a fab time in Ghent. It was a fantastic trip, mate. But I was hanging all day on Friday. You and the rest weren't in the best of health on Friday morning at breakfast. Well, you know what? My worst was Thursday morning, the day of the game. That's why I took it easy on Friday. I couldn't go. There's no way we were driving home with me being hungover. NWO. Razor, never wanted Moyes back for the last 2 seasons. Best ever. Graham, I'm still bloody working. Oh, mate, sorry to hear that. Good evening, Foe. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Vinay. Benny is not a defender. He has to track back. I want a more attack. A more attack, best form of defense mindset, not the Moyes mindset. Excuse me. Wait, NWO, we have we've got 2 players called Divine. Yeah, and they're both divine. Peter, Chelsea come of billions, and where are they now? Where you are. See, spending all that money doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to have a great team. Has Moyes agreed to leave, as reported by? No, I mentioned that earlier on. I talked about this handshake. I don't know. Like I said earlier on, for those who have just been catching up, I can't see a manager and a director and the club turning around before the season ends and going, we're agreeing for you to go at the end of the season. Someone did suggest, I think it was Clive, he suggested quite possibly Moyes might have turned around and gone, I'll see this season out, then I'm gone. That's a possibility. But I don't know what motivation any manager would have if he knows that he's out of a job at the end of the season. So I'm not sure, to be quite honest with you. I think, like I said, what the board do, they do every season. At the end of each season, they will sit down and review the season that's just gone and make decisions then. Will they make a decision beforehand? It's quite possible It's quite possible they may have had discussions amongst them. I'm sure they have. But to do it with Moyes, I'm not so sure. I don't know. I don't know the truth of it, to be honest with you. I know a number of social media columns have reported the same thing, but I don't quite know if it's true. Who else have we got? NWO. Wow, you can afford a beer in London. I can't get people to buy them for me. Garino, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Anthony, did Freddie Sears make his debut at 17? Scored a shot, was saved, the ball went up in the air, and he scored with it. He did. But where is he now? We're certainly not playing Premier League football, but he's making a living out of football, though. Trini, good evening to you. No Rodgers. And no Potter, not good enough. Look where Leicester are. Potter was all about Brighton's system. Said that earlier on. I'm glad you agree with me. James, who came out with the Moyes shaking hands story? One of the Neggy channels. No, it wasn't. It was. Where did I think? I think it was Claret. I think it was Claret and Hugh that reported it first. I think that's where I read that at the weekend. I think, and like I said, I don't know. I can't tell you if it's true or not. I don't think any of us really know, to be quite honest with you. John Kirby. Potter looks like he is aged 20 years at Chelsea. No surprise there. Foxes. We finish above Chelsea with the Pony Conference League Cup and Moyes stays. I answered that earlier. I quite like the Conference League. It's European football, as far as I'm concerned. I don't care what people think of it. It's still a trophy, and it's still a trophy worth winning, because if we win it, we're back in Europe next season. Finish above Chelsea, they carry on the way they're doing. It's quite possible. Who knows? Good evening, Mr. Tiley. I hope you're well. Ward-Prowse in the summer, be a great signing of mine. I think he'll be someone that David Moyes will certainly be looking at without a shadow of a doubt. Good evening to you, 10 men. I'm very well, mate. Thank you very much, mate. Hopefully for the Youth Cup final, we'll put players' names on the back of their that would be nice. I don't know if they're actually allowed to or not, to be honest. But yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it? E. Davis, Creswell was always was way out of position for the goal. I kind of look. It's when you've got a left-sided midfielder and a left back and a right-sided midfielder and a right back, you're meant to cover. Look at Bowen, covered for one of the crosses that sort of he headed over the crossbar. So you do, your players, your midfielders do have to do a defensive job at times. And to be honest, Ben Rama did stop. He kind of was bit ball watching. So I think it was a bit of both, to be quite honest with you. My goodness me. Mr. Wigram, I hope you're well. Was that bother? Yes, it was. She was there. I don't know if she's still on or not. So you've managed to log in then, David. Well done, mate. It's only taken you 2 years. Kenneth, is Sullivan going? Oh, by the way, also watch. I did a video when we were out in Ghent with Wiggy and with Paul Williams. Do watch that, because they talked about Ghent and their feelings on it. It's a really quite interesting. So do watch that after you've watched this. Kenneth, is Sullivan going next season and Kretinsky full owner? No. Sullivan ain't going anywhere. Kretinsky has got no interest, as I've said many a time before, of being the full owner. He's an investor. He wants to invest in the club. And whilst the investment is worth him investing in, he won't do any more than that. He keeps he's at arm's length from the club. He doesn't really deal an awful lot with the club on a daily basis. He's got his representative on the board that kind of does that, but no, I don't think he'll be buying the club outright. Vinay, Moyes' tactics are outdated. It's time to move on. Epic, Moyes pushing all the youngsters out of the club as a sackball offence alone. Is he though? You know, because you're looking at the youngsters that are coming through. You know, you've got a fine crop of youngsters coming through into the under 21s. Let's see what happens with them. Like I said earlier in the show, you know, there's no way any club is going to push through 3, 4, 5 youngsters into the first team. If we get another 1 or 2 over the next season or so, I think that's in a way an achievement. Trini, I would still want him gone. He does not rotate enough, does not make tactical changes, does not use subs correctly, and never uses the youth. I agree with a lot of that. And I'm not advocating that he should stay, but I think what I said earlier, it's going to be very interesting if we do stay up. I think we will. And if we also win the Europa Conference, I think there'll be a different conversation had. And I actually do think that it's got to be those things. I think we've got to win the Europa Conference and stay up for West Ham United to consider keeping him. Vino, £200 million worth of talent will leave if Moyes stays. We don't know that. We don't know that. I think, like I just said about Scamacca, I think he'll go. I think there'll be one or two other players that we bought in the summer will probably go. There might be others that may want to stay. Razor, Paquetá, no, Paqueta, behave. It actually is Paquetá. You're sounding like those pundits who pronounce the name properly as a Brazilian. Interestingly, I deliberately looked up when Paquetá was signed and he did a video for West Ham. He pronounced his name as Paquetá. I deliberately went to double check, Razor. Garino, think it's time for a change of manager. Moyes did his job and overachieved in some respects first 2 seasons. With better players, he has hit his ceiling. I don't disagree with that, to be honest. I think he has struggled to get the best out of the players that we've signed, without a shadow of a doubt. Anthony, no way. 18 months of boring football. New young manager who plays to win. Jonathan, but still, it's not just given in the beginning of the season. It would be spending 100 million again, dealing with Rice's situation. And if he failed, it would be a huge effort. That's good point. Good point. Let's scroll down. V9. Someone is always to blame for a goal conceded. If everyone was doing what they are supposed to do, then most games would end up 0-0. Yeah, true. Good evening to you, MJ. How are you? Thank you for joining, mate. Foe. No way. Well done, Patty. When did you get back to England? You're talking to Patrick, ignoring the show. Jason, we stay up with the Europa Conference League and play with the attacking spirit we did most of the game on Sunday, then I'd be happy for the Dow one to continue. You see, people have differences of opinion. Some people will accept it. Some people will say, no way, not again. I get both views. I get it. And like I said earlier in the show, it drove me to, where I was back, as a lot of you will know, I was backing Moyes over and over and over again. It got to the point where I was like, we can't take any more of this. If, however, he sets West Ham up as he did against Arsenal on Sunday, and it continues with that mantra, would you be too upset with that? I don't know. I don't know why it changed, and I don't know why he, I think the biggest disappointment is not knowing how to get the best out of the players he bought. I think that's the biggest disappointment, to be honest. NWO, I'd take a gamble on Carrick. I'd love a Carrick Keane double act. Keane, I don't know about him, but Carrick, interesting young up-and-coming manager. Why not? Good evening to you, Cockney. We need someone young and progressive. Don't want another dinosaur. Graham, Moyes should keep us up, win the conference, and walk into the sunset. Wouldn't that be a nice way for him to go? That would be a nice way for him to go. To say, I've won a trophy. That's now, people can't take that away from me, and then say, right, I'm packing up. Like Clive said earlier, it's quite possible if this handshake did happen, it is quite possible Moyes might have turned around and gone. I'll see it to the end of the season, and then I'm gone. That could possibly have happened. Good evening to you, CC. Would love Will Still. I think it's too much of a myth with Will Still, to be honest with you. Again, yeah, young manager, sounds exciting, and because he's a West Ham fan, that's why we want him. In a way, if you want to go for a young manager, I'd probably go for, as just mentioned, maybe Carrick. Bill, when Australia was announced pre-season, Moyes' future was said. That's a really good point. He doesn't like travelling far from Scotland. Yeah, that is a really good point. He's always said he doesn't like overseas trips in the summertime. He finds them too much of a distraction, etc. Really good point. Thanks for reminding me of that. Anthony, Arnie Slot transformed Feyenoord, beating Ajax and PSV, playing very good attacking football. Yeah, good shout. I didn't know who he was, but thank you for updating me on that. Good evening to you, Yuha. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Don't worry, mate. You're here, and that's all good. Cockney Buccaneer. What time is it? Goodness me, I'm half an hour behind on the chat. When Kera is on the left, he tackles with his left foot. Looks so dodgy. I think he had a good game. Am I the only one who does think he had a good game? I don't know. I think he had a pretty decent game at the weekend. Jerry, the football has been awful, but it wasn't a couple of seasons ago. Who was manager? Moyes can do it. Everyone's got that's what I love. Everyone's got a different opinion. Trini, leave Benny alone. Creative sparks don't do donkey work. No, I agree. Trini, I agree. But I'm just, comparing it to Bowen. Bowen got into a position where he saved what looked like a ball going into the net by, or certainly there was an Arsenal player about to head it in, and he got there and he beat the player to it. So I think, I agree. I do. I want my attacking players to be attacking. I agree with you on that. But Benny was he did kind of drift and let the player go past him. MJ. To be fair, if people are being blamed, we have to look at Fabianski for not cutting out White's cross for the first goal. Areola deserves a running for me. I've said that. I've talked about both Areola and Fabianski. You know, I said earlier, a little while ago, it looks like Fabianski may be offered yet another year. He'll be 38 tomorrow on Tuesday, the 18th. Another year, it'll mean he'll be 39 years of age when he finally hangs his boots up at the end of next season. I don't know. I think that's I don't think that's too much. But I asked the question: what does that mean for Areola? And does Moyes not actually have any trust in him? Clive, I would say Declan has a massive part in motivating the players to do better yesterday. He seemed pretty vocal at 10 minutes onwards. Good. That's what our captain should be doing. Good evening to you, Monumental. The difference between this season and the previous is the pressing. It showed against Arsenal that when we press as a team, we can beat most teams. Absolutely agree. Let me try and catch up. So do forgive me if I'm going to miss one or two comments out. Cockney, Arsenal was a blip. It was the players, not Moyes, that got the draw. Moyes will only ever revert to type, and we're back in the shit if he stays. He's been found out. Other people have suggested that earlier in the show, but as I said, there was an interview with Paquetá who said, who kind of alluded to the players doing their job, the job that they were told to press, and they did it, and almost like a revelation to the Brazilian that that's possibly what we should have been doing throughout the whole season. But anyway, hammer time. Good evening to you. Let's not get carried away. Great fight back, but it's only one game. Totally agree. I totally agree. I'm not getting carried away at all. I think we all got carried away when we beat Nottingham Forest 4-0, and look what happened there. But in the last 6, it's been 2 wins, 2 draws, and 2 defeats, which kind of on the whole isn't that bad. And considering we thought we were going to get absolutely trounced, it was a good point to get at the weekend. MJ, we'd love to see us, love to see 2 up top in the second leg. Ings and Barmer up top. Well, we played 2 up top in the first round, and they both looked like strangers. It was kind of a weird game, the Ghent game. Cockney, our players need to learn that tough tackling in Europe won't be tolerated. Last season proved that with Creswell sending off against Ghent. We were lucky not to get a red card too. Good point. Yeah, I'm going to scroll down, so do forgive me. Acid joke. So if the guy got a yellow, why weren't we awarded? It's exactly the question I asked myself. It looked like he rescinded the red. He gave him a yellow, or it certainly looked like he was giving him a yellow, and yet he gave the ball back to the keeper. I don't understand. I don't think any of us did. Anthony Orban looked a handful, possibly a cheaper buy. He'll be a very interesting purchase if anyone goes for him, without a shadow of a doubt. Jerry, I listened to Talk Sport earlier this evening. Durham and his mates could not praise West Ham one bit. It was Arsenal that let us off the hook. At least we, that's what I hate. If a so-called top team loses or draws against us, it's because they were shit rather than us being good. We were really good. We actually put them under pressure. We were the team that was sort of like forced that game into the outcome that it was. Clive, the handball from Antonio was clear, but it was turning his back on the ball. In my opinion, that should indicate it was unintentional, therefore not a pen. Yeah, well, we got our just desserts because they did because he missed the penalty. Gift Orban Foe is a bit of a baller. Seems to be a perfect striker for a Moyes counter-attacking team. Antonio, physicality, pace, but with the addition of technical ability and finishing prowess. He looked good, but you might know better than I do, Foe. He came from a low. Did he come from kind of something like non-league or a really lowly, like a 3rd division team or something like that? And he was picked out of nowhere. Is that right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Foe again, I was upset regarding the Arthur news. Yeah, I was really upset. Stella Suaku's having the time of his life bashing King. No, I've just told you the memories I had of him. That's all. And they weren't all good. Clive, Fabianski is still one of the best shot stoppers in the league. Yeah, I don't deny that. But I think overall, I actually feel sorry for Areola. I think Areola is a very good goalkeeper. You don't get into the French team on a regular basis if you're not good, and I just think if Areola was given a run, it'd be good to have seen what he'd be like with, playing regularly. Bill, if Fab still is extended, what hope does that give the younger goalies behind Areola? Yeah, good point. But it'd be for another year. But then we're going to have a problem of not having to find one first-team keeper. We're going to have to find 2 because Areola will get pissed off and then Fabianski will go. I don't understand it. I don't know. Hammer time. Thanks, Fab's been better than Areola. I think he's had a good season without a doubt. But should he be given another season? That I don't know. Good evening, Noel. I hope you're well. I have a conspiracy theory for you. Lampard managing the United Chelsea of America. Do you think it's a clever move by Chelsea board to use Lamps to get Dex? No, it's not. I don't know how they think they're going to get Declan Rice if they're going to finish probably below us in the league. No, I don't agree with the theory. Vinay, keep Moyes, and this time next year, Antonio, Fabianski, Cresswell, Souček, Ogbonna will be starters. That's the worry. Clive, is my WhatsApp number. Mate, you've just given everybody your WhatsApp number. Let's scroll down. He should have the operation instead of injections. That's a really good point, because I remember when he had the knee injury first off, they were giving him injections. Hopefully he'll get better. That might have made it worse. Good shout. Good point. Let's scroll down. So do forgive me. I'm going to miss out a few comments to try and catch up with you. Adam Cook. Scamacca hasn't had a good run of games. If he's fit next year and gets a good run of form, he could shine. I still think he's a good player. I do agree. Do not sell him. I agree. I do want him to stay. We can't keep going with strikers like this. Not getting the best out of them. It's ridiculous. Scamacca is quality. Paul Evans not being played properly. I agree. E. Davis, none of our players have looked good. West Ham expect a striker to walk on water and miraculously get the ball to themselves. Got to abuse him to his strengths. Absolutely, no doubt about that. And that's why I said earlier in the show, it's been if there's been a disappointment, it's been the disappointment of not getting the best out of our new signings. Jonathan, my best memory when King Arthur turned into Ronaldinho and did an air flip in the air to get past two Spurs scum and the wing. Yes, I remember that. Foe, Scamacca situation is a repeat of Allaire debacle under Moyes. We need a manager who can utilise a striker. If Moyes was to stay, he needs to hire a new attacking, tactical-orientated first-team coach. Good shout. Vinay. Masuaku was an important player in Moyes' first stint. Then Cresuaku combo was essential then, and he was missed when he got his spitting ban. Martin, I had high hopes when Scamacca was signed, but the whole season has just been what I've never been a Masuaku fan. I'm sorry, I never have. Anyway, I don't think I think I've seen Masuaku play maybe 4 or 5 good games for West Ham. But that's my opinion. Martin, I had high hopes when Scamacca was signed, but the whole season has just been one big disappointment. I think given a chance and the right team set up, he can be really good in the Premier League. I agree. Good evening, Bees Knees. If the players can cut out all this Moyes back passing crap, we'll be a good team. Showed it against Arsenal. I agree with that. Nick, Cresswell lets us down. Benny is an attacker. Johnson is worse than Kehrer. Johnson is just... high hopes for Johnson. He was really poor against Ghent at last week. I mean, the whole team was, but he was poorer than poor. Cresswell, tell you what, let's agree, because there's a split here. Some people are saying Benny, some people are saying Cresswell. Let's say it's both their faults for both those goals. Chris, cracks me up. People turning their noses up at the Conference League. The only cup we can realistically win, considering the disparity at the top of the game. I, for one, love the Europa Conference League and would love to win it. I'm with you, Chris, without a shadow of a doubt. It's a trophy. It's a trophy that we won't forget. It's a trophy that will get us back into Europe next season. It's not to be sniffed at. I don't care if it's the third tier of Europe. The Bees Knees, Antonio did really well against Arsenal, rolling back the years. All the lads showed great fighting spirit. Even Antonio I've really slated Antonio the last few months. I thought he's lost his up, but even he was up for it. And it was good to see. It was good to see. Thank you, Sharky. I always forget to do it. If you're new to the channel, etc., please hit the like button, hit the bell notification, and do subscribe to the channel as well. Foe. I like the UEFA Conference League competition also. We've craved European football for so long, and I would never turn my nose up at West Ham having a realistic chance of winning silverware. Absolutely agree. Daniela, it all depends if Moyes accepts he lost the fan base when he stays or not. That's a really good point. And maybe that links into what Clive said earlier, that maybe if there has been this handshake, maybe it's Moyes that has said, I'll go at the end of the season, because he did lose the fan base. He lost the fan base, especially the away fans, in the 4-0 loss against Brighton when we booed him. And when you get that to that point, you kind of know it's the point of no return. So it's quite possible that this handshake happened, but I wonder if it was more Moyes saying, I'll see it out, I'll see the rest of the season out, and then I'll go. What else we got? Clive. I'm not going to any more games whilst Moyes is in the chair. I'm sick of watching the same crap, spending 200 quid doing it, mate, and some. Trini, Kehrer was solid and he made an assist. Absolutely. I think Kehrer had a really, really good game on Sunday. I think he was a very, very decent on Sunday, without a doubt. Bill, when 2-0 down, did Moyes run out of ideas and his coaching staff make the decisions? I know I know people want to believe that theory, but like I go back to what Paquetá said in his interview. He talked about the pressing game, and that's what Moyes has been. He said the manager's been making us do that, but that's what they finally did. Anthony, how about Kevin Keane and Harry Redknapp? No way, Harry Redknapp. No. Kevin Keane, I wouldn't mind seeing him being promoted to have take some part in the senior team, without a shadow of a doubt. Eamon, if we stay up and win the Conference League, Moyes will be one of our most successful managers. Do we really want to be known as the club that sacked one of the most successful managers? As I don't. See, this is the thing. This is the massive conundrum that West Ham United are going to have at the end of the season. If we win the Europa Conference and we stay in the Premier League, what then? It's going to be interesting. Pardon the pun. We need to clear the deck in the summer. Sell Rice. Move on from Moyes. We need to get away from job for the boys appointments like Carrick, proven European manager. Move on. Oh God. Yeah. Heard that. I accept that. I heard a rumor that Pac-Man said the players played that way for themselves, and it was not Moyes' tactics. That's not what I read, mate. To be honest with you, or maybe I misread it. Nick, need an established manager, not a manager in training. Yeah. And maybe Carrick, Eamon. I don't want Carrick, don't want a manager in training. Need us to have a proven manager. Cockney, Oban was that good he didn't score. I think he was busy. I think people like the fact that he was busy, and he's been there since January at Ghent, and he scored 14 goals for them since he moved there. I think people enjoyed the fact that he was a busy player, and he had a couple of good chances as well. Foe, I knew you'd know the answer. Signed from Stayback in Norway during the transfer window. Stayback. Where are they in the Norwegian league? What level are they at? Peter, I know he came from non-league, but he worked his way through. I think this young chap, from Stayback, if I know what level they're at, might give me the answer. But, Antonio worked his way through, didn't he? Who else we got? 10 men. Still, for the red card, I think the ref only downgraded the card, but he can change decisions. Ghent can appeal the card. You can't appeal a yellow, but this is the thing. If he downgraded it, as was said earlier on, if he downgraded it from a red to a yellow, why didn't we get a free kick? He should have just said no card at all. That's the confusing bit. You can downgrade the card, fair enough, but then you've carded him for something. So surely we should have had a free kick at that point. I don't know. Eamon, Downs isn't good enough to replace. I guess you're saying to replace Declan. I can't see Downs being nothing better than a squad player, not a first team regular, unless we're in the Championship. I think Downs is decent. He's certainly not to Declan Rice's level. I agree, but I think he's decent. Maybe a squad player, but maybe in the Premier League. James, now that I have Budgie's WhatsApp number, I can share my princely royal fortune with him after the initial 10k until my inheritance comes through. There you go. Well done. Dabs, good evening to you. Unless the agreement is that Moyes will only stay if he wins the conference and keep us up, then at least it gives motivation until the end of the season. Yeah, good point. Good. What else we got? Cockney. If we stay up and win the Europa Conference, Moyes will just revert to type next season and we'll be right back to where we've been this season. And that's it. I've caught up. Thank you all very much. An hour and 34. Unless you put up any more comments, I've actually caught up, and there you go. Stay back, third from bottom in the first tier, or are they lower than that? Good evening to you, Si, by the way. Patrick, Rice needs another contract. Moyes needs to win a cup, and I need a think you got more chance of getting a Filipino wife than Rice signing another contract. Jonathan, Noah shared his number with us, so it'd be good. Right, you go ahead and do that. Stay back, Norwegian Premier League. So Norwegian League as opposed to Belgium, I would say the Belgian League is 8th level. I don't know where the Norwegian League is. I'm imagining a lot lower. So I'm kind of right. He's plucked out of nowhere in a way. Andrew, whatever happens at the end of the season, Moyes needs to go. I've had enough of this crap tactics. That's it. I'm gonna finish there with Epic saying, "Stay back, sign gift doorbell from Nigerian amateur." There you go. I was right in a way. Orban signed from Norwegian star. First tier Lindstrom. Previous played in Norwegian side Bison. It looks a top prospect. That's it. I'm not going to talk anymore. Thank you all for watching. Really much appreciated. There's going to be another show on tomorrow morning. I'm going to put it out in the morning. So I'll add that in when it's all ready. So look out for that. Look out for other shows. Friday Night Live is back on Friday night, of course. So do look out for that as well. Me and Nigel will be back doing that. Other shows will be done, pre-recorded shows about various subjects, etc. Do look out for them all. Really much appreciated for you all getting involved. I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope you have... we look forward to getting through to the semi-finals of the Europa Conference League. And I'm going to do that one as the last one, because Keith said, can't appeal yellow card. Didn't think so. If the referee is downgraded to yellow, it does not change the fact that it's still a free kick unless the card was it. Yep, right. That's it. That's it. Thank you all for watching. Really much appreciated. Do look out for more shows. Friday Night Live is coming back on Friday night with me and Nigel. Have a great week. I'll see you all very soon.